Well, welcome back everyone to this evening's Sporting Memories Answers. So maybe you've been mulling over these questions since Saturday evening. Maybe you've been looking them up on the internet and playing a few of the tunes and hopefully getting some good memories back of former years. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the question out as I normally do, and then I'm going to go through the answers and give a little bit of background where I can, and see where we go from there. So here we go. So sport and music. Question 1 went like this. It said, "Nice One Cyril" was a song associated with which football club? And I'm sure those of you who are fans will know that that is, of course, Tottenham Hotspur, Spurs. And it was actually linked to a player, the left back, known as Cyril Knowles. It was released before the 1973 League Cup final, where Tottenham played Norwich, Tottenham winning that 1-0. It got to number 14, interestingly. And going back to Cyril, he had a famous brother as well, Peter Knowles, who was also a professional footballer, but he died tragically at the very young age of 47 because of cancer. So Nice One Cyril is Tottenham Hotspur, and it was actually sung about the player, the left back, Cyril Knowles. Cyril Knowles. So well done if you got number 1. Number 2 was 1980s pop group. Which 1980s pop group produced a song called the Tour de France in 83, and much later in 2003 an album called Tour de France Soundtracks? I'm sure you came up with the answer on this one. Kraftwerk, the German pop band, probably most well known for the track She's a Model. Yeah, you remember that one? The Tour de France albums, obviously not quite as well known. They're very good, but they never got to the same heights as that particular track. So question 2. The German band Kraftwerk were the ones that produced those Tour de France albums and song. Well done if you got that one. Number 3, opera now. So how well up are you on your operas? So which famous opera piece of music was made famous to the global audience in the 1990 World Cup? And that was, of course, Nessun Dorma. Yeah, and that was from Giacomo Puccini's Turandot. I'm not very good at Italian. But it was sung by Luciano Pavarotti at the time. And it became an instant hit. I remember buying it myself, actually. In those days, you'd still buy the little record, the single. I remember still buying that. And it mesmerised a lot of people, that song, particularly the way he sang it, wasn't it? And it really did become the tune for the 1990 World Cup, and of course the one where England became did quite well, but not quite well enough. So that's number 3, Nessun Dorma. So number 4, moving on to rugby now. Which song would you associate, or do you associate, with England Rugby Union? And you may have sung it yourself from the terraces. And the answer is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. That's correct. A lot of debate, why do they sing that? Not too sure. Some suggestion that it was first sung at Twickenham probably in the mid-late 80s, which was when a certain player called Martin O'Fire, also known as Chariots, Martin O'Fire, because it sounded like O'Fire, Chariots, or Fire. And some people think, could it be linked to that same individual, Martin O'Fire? Possibly, I don't know for sure. So question 4, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. So well done if you got that one right as well. So number 5, maybe a little bit easier this one. Which duo made Raphael's Bolero famous once again? And it was, of course, the double act of Jane Torville and Christopher Dean. And this was at the Winter Olympics of 1984 in Sarajevo, where they got that unprecedented score, didn't they, of all sixes all the way along. So yeah, gold Winter Olympics. And if you look at what they did achieve, phenomenal amount of golds, European, worlds, they were truly dominant. And interesting, this year when they won the gold, they finally broke a lot of the Soviet Union hold on skating. And so that was good as well. Good for Britain anyway. Number 6. Which band helped inspire Manchester United to the double in the 93-94 season? So in this case, no, it wasn't Chaz and Dave. It wasn't Simply Red. It was Status Quo. Oh yes. And their song was Come On You Reds. It clearly helped because they won the double. It remained for 15 weeks and it reached a 2-week high of number 1. You may have even bought it yourself. So at the time, we still had Brian Robson there as the captain. I think he retired at the end of that season after a 13-year spell at Manchester United. And of course, it was the start of a huge amount of Premiership titles after that. But yeah, so Status Quo for number 6. Number 7. Who can remember this one? What 2 England players had a hit with Diamond Lights way back in 1987? Who was that? No, it wasn't John Barnes and Kenny Sampson. No, it wasn't Gary Lineker. It was Waddle and Hoddle, the 2 Spurs, former Spurs players. So Chris Waddle. Now, if you ever watch this, to be fair, it's not bad. And Glenn, his vocals aren't bad, I've got to admit. But when you watch Chris Waddle, it's almost like Glenn's dragged Chris along and said, come on, I can't do this on my own. Because Glenn's doing all the lyrics and Chris is there doing the chorus backing tracks, if you like. Or maybe looks like Chris has lost a bet and he's had to go along. But have a look at it on YouTube, see what you think. Diamond Lights, Waddle and Hoddle. Number 8, tennis now. So Pat Cash sang the song called Rock and Roll with which other famous tennis player? Wasn't Jimmy Connors, no. John McEnroe. Yeah, John McEnroe. And they had on the album, well not the album, but they had the record Full Metal Rackets. Thought that was quite clever. Now the main vocals were sung by Roger Daltrey, but Pat and John there were sort of mimicking a bit on the old guitar. They were singing along to it. But have a look, see what you think. Pat Cash and John McEnroe is your answer for number 8. Number 9, Vanessa May, most well known for her violin performances. But at what sport has she competed at the very highest level? Well, Vanessa competed at the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, where she was in the skiing event, the giant slalom. So skiing. Now, she did do a little bit of an Eddie the Eagle, finishing out of 67 competitors, she finished 67. However, she can still say, I'm an Olympian. So hats off to her. She competed in the giant slalom at the 2014 Sochi Games. So well done, Vanessa. So well done if you got that one right. That's quite hard. Number 10, a little bit easier now. The song You'll Never Walk Alone is sung at every home game of which football club? And it is, of course, Liverpool Football Club. Now, it's true, you're right, there are other clubs that have sung it or do sing it. Celtic, notably one of them, that adopted it, I think more for European nights, if I'm not mistaken. But Liverpool are the one who sing it at every home game. Jerry and the Pacemakers had it on an album back in the early 60s, but they didn't write it. It was written way back by a certain Oscar Hammerstein, who wrote a heck of a lot of musicals. I think he was involved in things like The Sound of Music and many other ones. So it's attributed to Oscar Hammerstein and now sung, as I say, at every Liverpool home game. So well done if you got that one, and well done if you got the one who wrote it as well. Moving on to number 11. So the instrumental part of Fleetwood Mac's chain is associated with which sport? And those of you who know Fleetwood Mac will know straight away that this has got to be Grand Prix racing. It is indeed. I think it's you've got to wait a little way into the track, haven't you? I think it's after about 3 minutes, something like that. If you wanted to fast forward to it, it's quite near the end. But it's the track adopted by the Grand Prix circuit, and it's one of those tracks, isn't it, that it'll be forever linked with motor racing. So that's number 11. Number 12. Interesting one, this. Which boxer's father came fourth in the 1968 Eurovision Song Contest? Who could that be? Well, if you work it out, if that was in 68, it was a boxer who was probably at the peak of his powers, probably the mid-80s. And it was, of course, Barry McGuigan. Barry McGuigan. And his dad, Pat McGuigan, he would often follow his son round to his boxing matches. And Pat would often sing before Barry fought. So one of his common ones was Danny Boy that he sang. When Barry fought in America for the title, his dad did sing the American national anthem, which I believe led Pat to be known as Mr. America. It was so well received. But yeah, Barry McGuigan, who himself won numerous boxing titles. So, number 12, Barry McGuigan. Number 13, this is an interesting one. The Matchroom Mob and Chaz and Dave performed which song? So this came out in May 1986, and it was Snooker Loopy. Snooker Loopy. And it was Chaz and Dave, and they made a little video along with Steve Davis, Dennis Taylor, Willie Thorne, Terry Griffiths and Tony Meo. Probably some of the key top players of the mid-80s. And if you have a look on YouTube, it is quite clever how they've done it. Typical Chaz and Dave style. Some funny lyrics around some of the things that had happened at the time. Steve Davis losing to Dennis. Only the year before, in 1985, of course, on the final black. So well done if you got Snooker Loopy for number 13. Number 14. Bit harder, this one. Which former pro footballer who played as a midfielder from 84 to 1999 is now well known for his acting and singing? And I was referring here to, of course, Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones, who many of you will think straight away of the crazy gang that was Wimbledon, before moving to other clubs such as Leeds, Sheffield United, Chelsea, QPR. And of course he did get capped by Wales as well. But I think, for me personally, he'll forever be linked to Wimbledon, particularly when they burst onto the top league, and some of their encounters, how they used to intimidate rival teams with their no-nonsense, quite aggressive play. But they did well. They won an FA Cup, didn't they, in 1988 as well. So that, number 14, Vinnie Jones. And finally, you've made it, number 15. Which member of the 1960s pop group The Monkees had once been a jockey? I'm sure a lot of you will know that this was, of course, Davy Jones. Davy Jones, now, he wasn't the tallest of people. And with him lacking the height, his father decided it would be good for Davy to maybe get an apprenticeship. Plumbing, apprenticeship, something like that. But the lack of height meant it wasn't in his favour. So his dad suggested, why don't you try racing? So Davy applied, he started his racing career. He'd already begun a little bit of acting, he already had that showbiz interest. And he hadn't been a jockey very long, where a part came along for him, decided to give it a go, and of course, things all stem from that. He did go back to racing very late on. He wished he'd gone back earlier, but he did have a go at it near the end of his career in music and acting. But obviously, it wasn't his main thing. So number 15, Davy Jones. Well done if you got that one. So add up your scores. I hope you've managed a good score on that one. Quite a lot of nostalgia there, wasn't there? And music, of course, conjures up a lot of memories, a lot of feel good as well. So hope you've enjoyed our little walk through memory lane with sport and music. And let me know how you got on. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.